Toyota claims battery breakthrough and potential boost for electric cars, but is it actually real or is it more of the same nonsense we've always seen from Toyota? I'm Brian. Welcome to My Tesla Weekend. We are joined today by Herbert from Brighter with Herbert. So good to have you, Herbert. How are you?
I love it, Brian. Love it. Doing well, thank you.
Yeah, it's always fun hanging out with you. So, did you know, Herbert, the Japanese firm believes it could make a solid state battery with a range of 745 miles that charges in 10 minutes?
Holy cow. Oh my gosh, we're in trouble. Brian, we're
Wow,
in big
wow.
trouble.
This is so great. These battery breakthroughs, we hear about them every day, and it seems they can do anything except leave the lab.
Just 10 minutes? That's all it
Just,
takes? I mean, why
just
not
10
5
minutes.
minutes?
Why not 1,000? Why not 10,000 miles? Toyota says it's got a breakthrough that could halve the weight, size, and cost. I mean, that's great. That's great. The world's second largest car maker was already pursuing plans to roll out cars with advanced solid state batteries by 2025. Now, of course, they announced 2025. Now this is 27, 28. But yeah, they said they've simplified production of the material used to make them, hailing the discovery as a significant leap forward that could dramatically cut charging times and increase driving range. My first question, I guess, would be do you believe that a company that doesn't manufacture batteries is the one that's going to make this breakthrough?
Right, that's what I was going to ask you, right? Do they already have R&D? Do they have firms? I mean, they are in Japan, right? They're very close to Panasonic and a lot of high-tech companies. So if they were the ones who announced that we have a partnership with them, I'd much more believe it. But if this is inside Toyota, claiming these kind of things are easy, right? Like we've seen this quite regularly. We have, just like all these, cancer is solved. These things happen all the time. And then you'll notice later that it was kind of in the lab, it was with fruit flies. And so in the same case here, this is probably, I'd like to know, is this just in the lab or is this something that they are able to produce in mass production? We've heard Elon say this a number of times, but many years ago, right? He said that there's always battery breakthroughs. We are on top of it all the time. But I need to warn you, he said, that many of these are on the lab and they don't translate to something that you can then take and do full scale. It's one thing to create one battery that can do 750 miles. How big is this? Now, they said it's half the size and
Half the
10 minutes.
size.
It seems too good to be true. Can you at least show us some sort of prototype? Is there something like
Yeah, we can show you in 2027. So let's. So yeah, but I don't. I struggle to believe that a company who is not known for making batteries can develop something like this. Now remember, there are companies, countries, universities all over the world working on this
that?
exact problem who have yet to crack it. But Toyota's just made 10 steps forward. I struggle to believe that. It strains credulity. So let me ask you a question about 700 plus miles,
Yeah.
740 miles. Why? Why 740 miles?
Right, right. I think for most of us, I'm trying to think if applies to just a regular person, but I think 500 miles is a magic number for most people, right? If my car, whether it's electric vehicle or gas, can drive 500 miles, I feel comfortable. I feel safe. Now, anything under 300, I think people are going, well, is there enough superchargers? Is there enough gas stations where I'm going just in case I get in trouble? 500
Sure.
miles seems to be it. 750 now, this is like breakthrough, right? This is now when batteries are way past the capabilities of the gas cars. ICE cars cannot, I mean, they've been around for 100 years. There have been barely nudges in terms of improved mileage, miles per gallon. And it's unlikely that that's going to improve because it's physics, it's combustion. I mean, you can keep making incremental improvements, but 750 to me, it sounds like, let's pick a number that's higher than 500. That's not so crazy as 1,000,
Right?
but it's really enough to say, oh, okay, if I'm gonna wait for that battery instead of the ones that we have now, and it makes like a 350 sound like it's double the 350, right? So that sounds like it's makes it seem much smaller.
It's exactly that. And I could see people saying, "Boy, for towing, this is the cat's meow," because now we can tow 350 miles. That's reasonable.
Right.
But they're not talking about making trucks with this. They're talking about making cars. And 745 miles, that's too far. A professional cannot safely drive that far without stopping to take a break. Certainly can't legally do it as a professional, as a licensed driver. The number is too high. Wouldn't you make 2 or 3 cars that are significantly cheaper? I mean, sure, the battery is going to cost half as much per capacity, but you still have a $20,000 battery that and double the weight and triple the weight. It seems like, if I'm not being too bold, a lie. It seems like a lie. There's also but here's the good news, Herbert. I don't know if you heard. You can charge it in 10 minutes.
Did I say the full thing in 10 minutes or like maybe 80, 50%? You know how it is typically that you can charge 80% of it maybe in 30 minutes or something like that. So they're saying, hey, I can get to 50%, 80%.
Well, this
They're
article
saying the whole thing.
does not specify. Well, if it's solid state, there's no reason it would need to taper, I guess, is the thinking. Now, let's talk about this. If we're doing 745 miles, again, we're not inventing new physics, we're inventing new engineering. So they're still going to need a battery pack that's at least double the big batteries of today. Something like, what is it? Lucid's using 127 kilowatt hours, something like that. Tesla's using 100-ish. So they're going to need 250 to 300 kilowatt hours of battery. And if they can do that in 10 minutes, I ran the math, you need a 2 megawatt charger. That's more than they use for the Semi. And in that case, what do you imagine your cable would look like? I figure it would be thicker than a pop can, and at a diameter of 2 inches, that would be over 12 pounds per foot, just the copper. So that gets a little unwieldy for grandma to plug in. That's quite heavy. I think, again, I have to suggest that might be absolute nonsense. What reason could Toyota have to say, don't buy a car, wait, just 2027, 2028, it's going to be magical. What motivation could they possibly have for doing something like that?
Yeah, we've seen other car companies doing this recently, right? Where they're just going to say that the EVs are just not ready right now, but wait a few years. That's when it's going to be much more, parity with ICE cars in price or just better quality, all these things, performance. They're trying to push it because they don't have any ability to produce one today, right? It's just they got flat-footed, they got caught. The demand is so much higher than they all thought. We're at 10% of all cars being sold globally is now electric vehicles. And we're seeing countries, cities implementing policies and incentives to drive the use of this. They are in trouble. And so they're going, okay, how do I maintain some sort of superiority or just make it, keeping the brand alive if I don't have the car to produce tomorrow? Let's make promises. Let's make promises that these things will happen. And then I think you're going to show that James Stevenson has been collecting these kinds of announcements from Toyota. Toyota's been making these announcements over and over and over again for many, many years. And we're now in 2023. And, all those announcements have gone to the wayside and they haven't even started. So,
well, I absolutely am going to do that. But first, I want to show this article from Car Scoops. This is just a couple weeks ago where they weren't really teasing the solid state yet. They were at this conference. Toyota unveils new electrification strategy, and this one's, they're saying solid state with up to 932 miles of range. What is this, an auction? How high can we go? So the first thing they did is said, we're going to Toyota plans to offer an assortment of different battery packs, which will enable the automaker to offer affordable EVs as well as better capabilities. The company's mass market offering will be a bipolar lithium iron phosphate LFP, which will be good and low cost. We've got this terrible chart here that is totally meaningless. It shows battery for the Buzz Forks, and then, next generation, better, and then even better. Good for cost, good for range. So, but they say, yeah, they're aiming for a 20% increase in cruising range and a 40% reduction in cost in coming years using LFP. That sounds reasonable. If you'd said that, I would believe you. That looks to be the cost curve for LFP. We know who is working on LFP. It's all the big battery players, and they're very good at it. This is within their core competency. And they said, and this is, the battery, the LFP battery would allow vehicles to go from 10% to 80% charge in 10 minutes or less. Now so maybe that's the part, but still that's that's even with LFP, that technology does not appear to be on the horizon. And they've got, it's just too much nonsense. Yeah.
So we've heard Elon say it's not, if you wanted me to create you a 750 mile, electric battery, we can do that. We can make you a car that has 500 miles, 1,000 miles. But he said the reality is people don't want that. They don't need that. So I just looked it up. Do you know what the average miles driven per day is by the average driver in the US?
100?
Nope.
20?
37.
Yeah.
So that was what Elon was saying, right? The reality is people don't need
Uh-oh.
it. And then the question becomes, are you willing to pay for that extra amount? Right. And then is the manufacturer willing to do this? Because like you said, I can do 3 cars at 750
right.
Instead of 1 car. What would you rather do? So you can definitely create a 750 mile car. Tesla can do it today. They can have like a version that they're going to sell, and then how many people will buy it. It's like the Roadster, right? Like this kind of thing that they're going to launch and say, this is something we can do, like, the supercars, right? But they really don't sell that much of it. And it's just more to say, we are the leader in the most miles per gallon or most miles per battery. But the reality is nobody wants it, and they don't want to pay for it, right? That's the key thing.
Well, there's a shop in Michigan who a year or two ago debuted their 600 plus mile range Model S.
Yeah.
And they said, wow,
right.
How'd you do it? They said, we double stacked the battery.
Yeah.
That's it. And that's very easy to do. All it does is make the car vastly more expensive and vastly heavier for those 2 times you would actually want more charging range. Ridiculous. So here's James Stevenson. I cannot underscore enough to celebrate Toyota's recent announcement that they will sell 600-mile ranges EVs with solid-state batteries that can be recharged in 10 minutes. I'm sharing this less recent article about 6 EVs they'd announced they would launch in 2020 to 2025. So here's the first one. It's pushing up its planned EV rollout by 5 whole years. Look at that. It's going to be, these will begin appearing in 2020. Oh, I feel like we missed that. And then, about that rollout, here's even more cars. They're looking so cool. And it's just, Toyota has, like all the legacy guys, this started really in 2012 when Tesla launched the Model S. Audi is going to have this many models. GM is going to have just so many in just a few years, guys. Don't buy it now. Just stick with us. Just buy 1 more of our cars, and then you can switch to our much better electric cars. They're going to be much better. And my source at Toyota is not in Japan, so it is possible that the information available is not the most current or deep, but there are no visible plans from Toyota corporate to actually get serious about electrification. And that's, if your employees around the world don't even know if you're moving in that direction, you're probably not moving in that direction. This is probably just PR. Toyota doesn't want you buying an electric car from anyone today. Certainly not them, not with the Buzz Forks. That thing's a piece of trash. And not from anyone else, because, we're Toyota, we're moving you forward into the past with fossil fuels.
Yeah.
It
So
is.
I just looked it up, and the Toyota Motor Corp is sold 10.5 million vehicles in 2022, right? So this is the third year that they're the world's top selling automaker for the third year straight. They've always been right at the top there. They are the leader in gas cars, but they're also the laggard. We've been seeing lists of all these cars and which one is actually leading in electrification. And Toyota is way at the bottom, right? They just haven't even started. They've been very wishy-washy in terms of their strategy. They've said that it's going to be hydrogen, it's going to be the hybrids. They spent a long time saying hybrids is really the way to go. They do a lot of that marketing, and then most recently they started saying we need to do electric vehicles. They let go of the chairman, who was the grandson of Toyota, because he admitted that he's not going to be the person to take this new world to the electric vehicle generation. And so they finally had to step back and kind of agree. And, they were just fighting it because you're number one. You want the world to stay the way it is, but it's changing fast. So now they're in trouble. So how do you keep the brand alive? How do you keep it so that you'll keep selling these cars? And like you say, we got to pretend that we are the leaders. And we're seeing GM do the same thing, where they keep announcing things just to try to keep the brand strong and keep the employees there. They don't want the employees to jump as soon as anybody kind of feels like this company is on its way out, right? We're Nokia. We have the best. We're the number one seller of dumb phones in the world. And just wait till my magical cell phone comes out. That's going to be 20 times, 100 times better than the iPhone. That thing is silly. My battery. Wouldn't it be great if they did come out with a smartphone that does last for 750 hours, that
Sure.
charges in less than 10 minutes? That'd be
Sure.
awesome.
Yeah, it would be magical, I think is what it would be. So my take is 700 miles is never going to happen. It might be one option on one model or two.
Right.
We might see it on trucks just so they can reasonably get a longer towing range. But just to say that they're going to double range across the board is nonsense. It would drive up costs, it would drive up weights, it would make them grossly inefficient, vastly too expensive, without adding any real benefit. And solid state, I'm not convinced they've got it cracked. If someone has it cracked, I'm not convinced it's them. It's
Or
real
that you can
tough,
scale it. Yeah.
or that they can scale it. If the battery can't leave the lab, it doesn't matter how long the range is. If you're stuck inside the lab, you just need a bigger lab. That's what you need. So it just doesn't make any sense. This is, to me, a pretty shameless lie, a pretty
They've done it many times
transparent
before.
tactic.
Marketing lies. Doesn't hurt them in any way, just has lots of positives. You can't prove them that they're wrong. The thing, though, is that, the comment you made, I kind of there's a slight nuance to it that I want to point out, which is, ICE vehicles, combustion engines, has been around for over 100 plus years, and it's hit its physics maximum. It can't really do much with that. Technology, though, like a battery, will keep improving. We are just at the beginning. There will be improvements that we'll see eventually 700 miles in 10 minutes. These things will happen. It's just the question is, yeah, it's one thing to show it on the lab. It's another thing to actually produce it and mass produce it and have lots of cars. There's going to be stepping stones. Who's going to be able to do it first? And, the beautiful thing about Tesla is that they're not sitting on their laurels. They've announced the 4680, and you can see with a company as innovative as Tesla, it has already delayed them producing that, and they'd already invented this several years ago. So it's the ability to actually take something that's known, and then applying it into practice, and then actually scaling it, and it takes a long time. So how many battery factories does Toyota have?
At present, I believe the number is 0. And if you're going to replace 10 million units of production, you're going to need what, the equivalent of 5 to 10, maybe 20 Giga Nevadas. Where are they? Are they under construction? Are we working on it? It doesn't appear so, which means their plans are not plans, they're aspirations. And that's
Yeah.
simply ridiculous.
Did they say what the materials would be? That the minerals? Is it lithium or is it
Not
something
in the
different?
solid state. In their other one from last month, they were just, this one was more realistic. They were talking less about the hokum and more about just getting a little bit better with what they have. That they could get LFP batteries, which do not use exotic materials of any sort, to just get a little bit better, and that they would make up the rest with vehicle efficiencies such as aerodynamics and weight reduction. Quick question: how are you going to reduce weight if you're using a battery that is 2 to 3 times larger than it needs to be? Never mind, never mind. The automaker said the battery, which will be 20% cheaper than the one in the BuzzForks, and will be able to charge from 10 to 80% in 20 minutes or less. Well, that sounds like what we already have from other manufacturers. To get from 10 or 20% to 80% is about a 20-minute charge currently for all of the serious manufacturers. So I think it's all a bunch of nonsense.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah.
So I would like to remind of viewers that Herbert has his own channel, Brighter with Herbert, on the YouTubes. It will be in the description below, so by all means do check it out. He's on Twitter at Herbert Ong, as you can see right underneath, right on him there, right there where his name is, there at the bottom. And yeah, and and for those of you tuning in, I have a couple questions. One is, do you own a Toyota? And will you buy a Toyota electric? And the other is, where are you watching this from? Leave in the comments. I'd like to know where you are, because that's always, I find that fascinating, and it helps guide the discussion in terms of what we should be covering, what we should be looking at, and all that. So from there, I guess my question is, what did we miss? What did we misunderstand? Leave it into the comments below. And for everyone else, subscribe, like, give it the thumbs down if you must. It does not hurt my feelings. I just need to know how you feel. And it drives engagement either way. So it's pretty much an ornamental button. Just do it. Just click it. And for everyone else, stay tuned, stay juicy, and I cannot wait to hear from you clever robots on the next installment with Herbert.
Thank you, Brian. Hey, guys.